By the 1600s, London had swelled into one of Europe's most crowded metropolises, pushing toward 500,000 souls packed into streets that pulsed with commerce, danger, and ambition. This was a city defined by the River Thames, where every road led to water and every fortune rose or fell with the tide. In this reconstruction, I'm using AI to step inside historic artworks, shifting angles, adjusting perspectives, and moving through scenes frozen centuries ago by artists who never imagined we'd walk their canvases. Let's begin with a structure I barely understood until diving into the archives, the original London Bridge. By the 17th century, this crossing had evolved far beyond its function as a link between the city of London and Southwark. It had become a vertical neighborhood, a packed corridor of timber homes, merchant stalls, storage rooms, prayer chapels, and defensive gates stacked so tightly across the Thames that travelers saw not a bridge but a floating district suspended on stone. The bridge stood on cramped arches held up by enormous piers that choked the river's flow, turning the water beneath into a gauntlet of violent eddies. Boats trying to shoot the gaps faced deadly surges. Capsizing was routine. The Thames didn't flow beneath the bridge, it fought it. Above, buildings climbed multiple floors, their upper levels jutting over the roadway like wooden cliffs. Families lived overhead while carts, livestock, and foot traffic crushed together below. Fire could erupt without warning. Crowding was permanent. Still, generation after generation chose this bridge as home and workplace. To cross meant threading through not just commerce but symbols of authority. Beneath your feet, the Thames carried London's lifeblood, barges heavy with grain, timber, coal, and cloth, ferries shuttling passengers, merchant ships hauling imports from across the Atlantic and Europe. The river was England's highway, and the bridge was its toll booth, a choke point where local routine collided with global trade. In brutal winters, the bridge's narrow arches could trap enough ice to freeze the Thames solid during these rare spectacles. Londoners ventured onto the ice below the very structure that usually killed river traffic, a surreal reversal of the water's usual menace. This perspective captures the northern approach, framed by St. Magnus the Martyr Church rising on the left. By the mid-1700s, decay forced officials to act. Between 1756 and 1762, crews stripped away the buildings that had defined the bridge for centuries. Though this painting dates from the 18th century, it memorializes a crossing that had already anchored London for generations. And here's the astonishing part: you can still stand where this scene unfolded. What makes this bridge unforgettable isn't just its engineering, it's that it functioned as infrastructure, market, residential block, and emblem all at once. Monarchs and commoners shared its pavement. Merchants and dock workers labored side by side. Newcomers to London met the city at this narrow, noisy threshold. Old London Bridge was filthy, shadowed, and dangerous. It strangled traffic, slowed trade, and threatened everyone who depended on it. Yet until the 18th century, it remained the only permanent Thames crossing in central London, making it unavoidable for anyone moving north or south through the capital. Sometimes I ache to step into this vanished world, even for an afternoon. For now, this AI reconstruction is the closest I'll come to that impossible wish. Now we shift west to Buckingham House in the late 1600s and early 1700s, long before its transformation into Buckingham Palace. Originally erected as a private residence on London's western fringe, it sat amid open fields and gardens, marking the edge where urbanism gave way to rural England. Even as the city's core tightened, its borders remained palpable. In September 1666, catastrophe arrived. A small flame ignited and tore through a metropolis built almost entirely of timber. Narrow lanes and densely packed structures turned containment into fantasy. The first image shows Ludgate engulfed, with the square tower of Old St. Paul's Cathedral looming in the distance, already threatened. Soon, even this colossal landmark would collapse into ash. The second view sweeps across the Thames near Tower Wharf on the evening of September 4th. London appears as an unbroken barrier of flame. To the left, London Bridge; to the right, the Tower of London barely escaping annihilation. Old St. Paul's burns at the skyline's heart, in days, medieval London became memory. Yet the Inferno became a pivot point, erasing centuries of congestion and forcing the city to reimagine, rebuild, and evolve. Rising beside the river, the Tower of London dominated the 1600s as the embodiment of royal authority. By then, it served as fortress, armory, treasury, and England's most feared prison. High-stakes prisoners accused of betraying the crown languished within its walls. The tower also secured royal documents, weaponry, and the crown jewels, cementing its role not merely as dungeon but as pillar of the English state. This scene depicts Cheapside in 1638, one of London's grandest ceremonial avenues, during the procession of Marie de Medici as she entered the city to visit her daughter, Queen Henrietta Maria. In King Charles I. Cheapside wasn't just a trade route, it was a stage for royal theater, lined with fountains, monuments, and temporary scaffolding for public spectacle. At the heart stands the Cheapside Cross, a familiar gathering point. Soldiers, officials, and throngs pack the street beneath banners and arches, yet pageantry like this masked rising friction. Henrietta Maria's Catholic faith and foreign ties unsettled a city already sliding toward civil war. Today, this stretch endures as modern Cheapside in the city of London near St. Mary Le Bow, a street that survives even as the medieval markers have dissolved. This view captures the political and spiritual heart of Westminster in 1647, seen from across the Thames at a moment when England stood fractured. On the left rises the old Palace of Westminster, Parliament's home and the axis of political power. By the mid-17th century, it had become the epicenter of escalating conflict between monarchy and parliament, especially during the English Civil War's brutal years. Beside it towers Westminster Hall, one of the palace's oldest and most imposing remnants, a venue for trials, courts, and major assemblies. Its immense roof embodied royal dominion long before it became an arena for challenging it. To the right looms Westminster Abbey, the nation's spiritual anchor. For centuries, it hosted coronations, royal burials, and the interment of kings and queens, reinforcing monarchy's sacred dimension. In 1647, the abbey stood uneasily between tradition and revolution as religious schisms reshaped England's institutions. At the scene's center are Westminster Stairs, a bustling river dock where travelers boarded and disembarked by boat. Before bridges and paved roads dominated transit, the Thames was London's main artery, ferrying politicians, clergy, messengers, and citizens directly to power's doorstep. This etching reveals the Palace of Whitehall in 1643, then England's largest royal compound and the monarch's principal residence. From these river-facing steps, royalty and courtiers arrived by watercraft, underscoring the Thames as London's primary conduit of movement and authority at the Stuart Court's core. Stretching along the waterfront, Whitehall wasn't a single structure but a sprawling labyrinth of halls, chambers, and administrative quarters where royal governance unfolded. Most of Whitehall succumbed to fire at the century's close. Today, only the banqueting house endures, the sole fragment of what once anchored royal existence. This is Richmond Palace in the 16th and early 17th centuries, one of the Crown's most significant estates beyond central London. Originally reconstructed by Henry VII over a former medieval manor's ruins, Richmond became a cherished escape for Tudor and early Stuart rulers, offering cleaner air and respite from urban density. Elizabeth I spent her last days here, dying at the palace in 1603, ending the Tudor line. Over time, Richmond fell into disuse and was gradually dismantled. Today, its grounds form part of modern Richmond, with only faint traces of walls and layouts surviving beneath contemporary streets and riverside walks. Standing here now, gazing back at these fragments, it's impossible not to sense how near the past remains. These lanes, these edifices, these upheavals forged the world we inhabit. Through these reconstructions, we glimpse what it meant to inhabit those moments. If there's another city, another era, or a historic tableau you'd like resurrected through AI, share it in the comments. I'd love to continue constructing this passage into history alongside you. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. If this reconstruction transported you, hit that like button and let me know what period you'd like Reconstruct's history to explore next.